At a food festival that only several people, you know, would consider the wine as being a sort of an integral part of the meal.
In our village, I live next door to him. In our village, we've got the chap that comes in and the woman that comes and does the food.
Yeah.
He brings wine.
Okay.
The wine's disgusting.
Wine's disgusting.
Until you eat it, drink it.
Okay. So do you find that sort of, do you find that annoying or good?
Oh, I like to drink it.
The
It's helpful, but I wouldn't buy the wine.
you wouldn't buy the wine.
No, because I would never drink it.
With and without food, yeah. No, I totally understand that. It's just really interesting to say there is no right or wrong answer. You know, certain things undoubtedly do bring out elements of a dish, and it's all about balance. Trying to balance different components in the food. And do we get to try some of this, Paul?
You can.
What's happening with the spuds there, Paul?
Sorry?
What's happening on the plate there?
That's just basically some crushed Maris Pipers, rather than mashed. Trying to be a bit posh. But there we go. Now it's there. That's alright.
So, Alistair, what are you matching with this?
Charmaine, will you do me sorry to get you? It seems totally improper that Charmaine should come all the way from Australia to pour her own wine. I'm matching this. We're staying with Charmaine's wine, so we're staying with Western Australia. Anyone that missed it, it's Charmaine's estate, the Umama estate from Margaret River in Western Australia. And as I said before, Margaret River, they have the Bordeaux varietal. So in the white we have Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. And with the red here, we've got Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, which are the two main grapes in Bordeaux. On the left bank of Bordeaux, you find more Cabernet Sauvignon, and on the right bank you find more Merlot. And here we've got a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. And as I said before, Cabernet Sauvignon has got quite a lot of those tannins. Now tannins, have you ever had a stewed cup of tea and had that drying sensation that, you know, you can feel it here around the top of your lips? That's tannin. And that comes from the skins and the pips of the grape when it's macerating to get that colour out. That's what tannin is. It's a preservative. It keeps the wine, it enables it to age, and you find it in higher quality wines. You tend to, they get it by leaving it longer on the skins. And Cabernet Sauvignon is quite high in tannin extract. But here Merlot is a lot softer. It's got a thinner skin, so it's a lot softer. And the pyrazine character, this is very technical stuff. You're doing very well to still be awake. The pyrazine character I said that you get in Sauvignon Blanc and also in asparagus. You also get in Cabernet Sauvignon. You can maybe get a little bit of that on this wine on the nose. There's a pepperiness, a slight sort of green pepperiness on the nose. But there's also some lovely, lovely, juicy, round, red, dark fruits on there.
There's sort of smoky element to it.
There is some smoky, and that's maybe come from, this has had 24 months in oak, Charmaine? 24? Oh, 10. Okay, 10 months, I was way off. It's had 10 months in oak, which...
New first year, second year.
New first year, some new oak. If you age wine in new oak, then you get richer, more vanilla flavours. Older oak, you get more gentle flavours. But here, any thoughts? Do you like this wine? Good? Thought one good? And it's going to work with the lamb because those tannins. Lamb is the best meat. Can we try it? Lamb is the best meat to have with red wine. Looks good.
Yeah, it's a really simple dish to do. I mean, it's 20 minutes cooking for the lamb, easily done at home. So
it's just dry crust. Did you put any?
I'll just put some salt and pepper on the top. That was it. Just cook it as it is. You keep the juices in there. By putting in it as hot as you possibly can, it seals it more quickly. And you can see you've still got, with 10 minutes cooking, you've still got a bit of thickness. But the potatoes, I just used the spoon just to crush those. I didn't mash them, just to keep those loose, rather than having too smooth, almost a puree, which is fine, but then it becomes a bit of meat and two veg tradition, whereas this, I think, with the sauce, it needs that little setting off. The sauce actually, for me, is a bit like a replacement for mint sauce. So when you try it, It's kind of, when you think about it, spicy beetroot sauce. How does that work? But it actually is a bit like a replacement for mint sauce. So we'll try this.
How long did you cook that lamb for?
It was 10 minutes on 230,
Right.
and then 10
So that
minutes on
just
200. That seals it. It
yeah.
gets it going. I mean, you can see it's not a huge piece of meat, so you can't. You don't really want to go too far with it
Yeah.
because it'll just tighten up so much that it'll lose its flavour. So you've still got some pinkness in there, which is what you want, which keeps the flavour in. Yeah, so 10 minutes, 230, 250 if your oven will do it, 200 for 10 minutes, and then 5 minutes rest. So that's roughly what it's done. So let's see what we can do with this. Yeah, it looks so pretty, I don't want to cut it out.
Ah, don't be shy.
Now, Alistair, I've asked you about this before, and I don't know whether it's technical talk or not, but I sort of, especially with red wines, the weight of a wine with the meat that is serving it. You know, some reds can seem, in my sort of definition, quite heavy.
Yep.
But there is a spectrum, isn't there, that you can work with on reds. You know, it doesn't have to be so overpowering.
No. There's very different styles of red wines. You know, there's light and fruity wines, and you go to quite tannic big wines, like the Cabernet Sauvignon can be tannic. This isn't. This has got a bit of age on it, which has meant those tannins have mellowed. Grapes such as Pinot Noir or Gamay from the Beaujolais are very light, very fruity. There's not much tannin there. And again, coming back to the tannins, that comes because they've got thin skins. So a thin-skinned grape is not going to get a lot of tannin, so they're not going to be big wines. So Pinot Noir is very, very rarely a dark colour. It's nearly always a very light colour because it has that thin skin.
If you want
I'll
to
just
tuck
take
in,
it and then
let's do it.
I'll leave it there, and then I can carry on talking.
You carry on talking, and I'll go look to eat.
I'm so sorry. I'm the one that comes up. I'm sure it'll come
Everybody
round.
want to try some?
I'm sure it will. Beautiful. But you do have different weights of wine. As I say, certain grape varieties have higher tannin, certain grape varieties have higher acidity.
So you could get a red that people might traditionally think is quite heavy, that could be a perfect summer's day drink.
Absolutely, and a lot of it is about method of production as well. There's certain styles of making wine, which means that they keep it more fruity. There's a lot that can be. I think wine is very important to. I believe, and my company Wines Unfurled believes in sustainability in the vineyard, organic, biodynamic, and as farming as naturally as possible. Because, as many of you will agree, we're here on a food festival. We don't want to be pumping pesticides into the vines. It's not right. It's not sustainable. We don't need it. But we became used to it under conventional farming. We don't need to use those systemic pesticides. So I think a lot of wine is made in the vineyard, but equally, wine doesn't make itself. If you have a vine, they don't naturally grow in vineyards. They're creepers that grow up. They only produce fruit. A vine only produces a fruit to try and escape from where it is. It won't produce fruit in a very hot region because it's quite happy just creeping up and creeping up in woods or wherever it is. It won't put its energy into producing fruit. It's vines that are producing fruit are putting energy into trying to get out of there. A vine needs to be stressed to produce the fruit to get out there. So the birds would come and eat the grapes, and then they would be carried off, and they're trying to save the species. I think it's very important what happens in the vineyard, but man is also very important. There are techniques that you can use in the winery that can determine whether you have a wine to be drunk young or a wine to be aged. There's a lot that man can do, but most great winemakers will say all they're doing is putting a frame on a picture, that they don't make the wine. It's not strictly true. I think they're doing themselves an injustice. They're very, very important. But using minimal additions wherever possible. Sulfur, everyone has people often ask me, why do you put sulfur in wine? Why is there sulfur dioxide in wine? Well, there's very few wine can be made without sulfur. A wine without sulfur isn't stable. You need to have that there. It's an antioxidant and it's an antiseptic. It keeps it alive. And actually, sulfur dioxide is naturally produced during the process of fermentation. It's a natural byproduct. At least 5 to 10, up to 20 milligrams per litre will come out in fermentation. So it's naturally there. It's naturally produced. But yeah, man can change the style of wine.
Okay. Any more questions?
Any more questions?
How was the meat?